Imagine coming home to find police cars parked outside your house, lights flashing, all because your neighbor's entitled kid decided your private pool was his personal playground, and then had the audacity to call 911 when he couldn't get in. That's exactly what happened to me, and let me tell you, the fallout was a masterclass in karma served poolside. It all started in a quiet suburban neighborhood, the kind where the lawns are manicured, the mailboxes are uniform, and the HOA president, Karen, ruled with an iron fist and a clipboard. Karen was the type who'd measure your grass with a ruler and leave passive-aggressive notes about community standards if it was half an inch too long. Her son, Jake, was a 16-year-old who seemed to think the entire neighborhood was his personal fiefdom. If there was a rule, Jake was breaking it, whether it was skateboarding on the sidewalks, forbidden by HOA Regulation 4.2.7, or blasting music at 2 a.m. Karen, of course, never saw a problem with her precious angel's behavior. Everyone else? They were just jealous or too sensitive. I'd lived in the neighborhood for about 3 years, keeping to myself mostly. My house was one of the few with a backyard pool, a nice in-ground number I'd saved up for years to install. It wasn't a community pool, mind you. This was my property, my investment, my sanctuary. I'd put up a sturdy 6-foot fence around it, complete with a heavy-duty lock on the gate, because I wasn't about to let just anyone waltz in. The pool was for me, my family, and invited guests. Not for the neighborhood kids to treat like their personal water park. Trouble started brewing about a month ago. It was early summer, and the weather was getting hot. I started noticing little things around my backyard. Empty soda cans near the pool, a random flip-flop, wet footprints on the deck when I hadn't used the pool in days. At first, I thought maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe the wind blew some trash in, or my memory was fuzzy. But then I caught Jake and a couple of his buddies climbing over my fence one afternoon when I came home early from work. "Hey!" I shouted, storming out to the backyard. Jake, all smirks and attitude, was halfway over the fence, his friends already on my side, splashing in the pool like they owned it. "What do you think you're doing?" Jake didn't even flinch. "Chill, man, it's just a pool. We're not hurting anything." "This is my property," I said, trying to keep my cool. "You can't just climb over my fence and use my pool whenever you feel like it. Get out." "No." His friends scrambled out, dripping water everywhere, but Jake just rolled his eyes. "Whatever, dude. It's not like you're using it right now." He sauntered off, but not before tossing a half-eaten bag of chips onto my lawn. I was fuming, but I figured it was a one-off. Kids being kids, right? I tightened the lock on the gate, added a few extra padlocks for good measure, and even put up a "no trespassing" sign. I thought that'd be the end of it. Spoiler alert, it wasn't. A week later, I got a knock on my door. It was Karen, clipboard in hand, her lips pursed like she'd just sucked on a lemon. "We need to talk about your pool," she said, not even bothering with a hello. "My pool?" I asked, already sensing where this was going. "Yes," she said, tapping her pen against her clipboard. "It's causing issues in the neighborhood. The children are upset that they can't use it. It's unfair to keep such a resource locked away when it could benefit the community." I blinked at her, trying to process the sheer gall. "Karen, it's my pool. On my property. I paid for it, I maintain it, I insure it. Why would I let random kids use it?" "It's about community spirit," she said, as if I was the one being unreasonable. "You're setting a bad example by being so selfish. I'm going to bring this up at the next HOA meeting." "Good luck with that," I said, shutting the door before I said something I'd regret. The HOA had no jurisdiction over my private pool, and I knew it. The bylaws were clear. Backyard amenities were the homeowner's responsibility and privilege. Karen could huff and puff all she wanted, but she wasn't getting her way. The next few weeks were a game of cat and mouse. I'd find more signs of trespassing, soggy towels, a broken pool float, even a pair of goggles I didn't own. I installed a cheap security camera, one of those Wi-Fi ones that sends alerts to your phone. Sure enough, the footage showed Jake and his crew sneaking over the fence at all hours. I confronted Karen again, this time with video evidence. "Your son's been breaking into my backyard," I said, showing her the footage on my phone. "This stops now, or I'm calling the police." Karen didn't even look at the video. "You're overreacting," she said. "Jake's just a kid having fun. If you'd share your pool like a good neighbor, we wouldn't have this problem. I was done being polite. Karen, if I catch him again, I'm pressing charges. Keep your kid off my property. She stormed off, muttering about unneighborly behavior and HOA violations. I thought maybe, just maybe, she'd rein Jake in. But no. Karen wasn't the type to admit she was wrong, and Jake wasn't the type to listen to anyone. Fast forward to last weekend. It was a Saturday, and I'd been out running errands. I got home around 6 p.m., and as I pulled into my driveway, I saw 2 police cars parked out front. My heart sank. Had there been a break-in? Was something wrong? I hurried out of my car, and an officer approached me. "Are you the homeowner?" he asked. "Yeah, that's me. What's going on?" "We got a 911 call about a disturbance at this address," the officer said. "Something about a locked gate and someone being denied access to a pool." I stared at him, dumbfounded. "A disturbance? Over my pool?" Before he could answer, I heard a familiar voice. Jake, standing by the curb with his arms crossed, looking smug as ever. Karen was right behind him, her face a mix of righteous indignation and barely concealed glee. "That's him," Jake said, pointing at me. "He's the one causing problems." I took a deep breath and explained everything to the officers: the trespassing, the security footage, the multiple warnings. I showed them the videos on my phone, timestamps and all, of Jake climbing over my fence. I pointed out the no trespassing sign and the triple-locked gate. The officers watched the footage, their expressions shifting from neutral to annoyed as they realized what was going on. "Kid," one of the officers said, turning to Jake, "you called 911 because you couldn't get into this man's pool?" Jake shrugged. "It's not fair. He's got a pool, and he won't let anyone use it. That's, like, illegal or something." The officer pinched the bridge of his nose. "It's his property. He can lock his gate. You, on the other hand, have been trespassing. That's illegal." Karen jumped in, waving her clipboard like it was a badge of authority. "This is an HOA matter. That pool is a community issue, and he's violating the spirit of our neighborhood." The second officer, who'd been quiet up to this point, finally spoke. "Ma'am, the HOA doesn't own this man's backyard. He's within his rights to keep his pool private. Your son, however, admitted to climbing the fence multiple times. That's trespassing, and calling 911 for something like this is a misuse of emergency services." Karen's face turned red, but she wasn't backing down. "This is outrageous. I'm going to file a complaint with the HOA board and the city." The officer didn't blink. "You do that. In the meantime, keep your son off this property, or we'll be having a very different conversation." They gave Jake a stern warning, told him he was lucky I wasn't pressing charges yet, and advised Karen to read up on property laws. The police left, and I thought that was the end of it. But Karen, true to form, couldn't let it go. The next day, I got a letter from the HOA, signed by Karen, claiming my pool was causing discord and demanding I open it to the neighborhood or face fines. I laughed, crumpled it up, and tossed it in the trash. The HOA had no power to enforce that, and I wasn't about to be bullied. Since then, things have been quiet. Jake hasn't been back, at least not that my cameras have caught. Karen's been giving me the silent treatment, which is honestly a blessing. I heard from another neighbor that she's been ranting at HOA meetings about selfish homeowners, but no one's taking her seriously. Turns out, most of the neighborhood was fed up with her and Jake's antics long before this. Looking back, I'm still amazed that a kid had the nerve to call 911 over a locked pool gate, and that his mom thought she could bully me into turning my backyard into a public park. But in a way, I'm glad it happened. It exposed Karen and Jake for who they are, and it reminded me why I put that lock on in the first place. My pool, my rules. And if Karen or her son try anything else, I've got the footage and the law on my side.